again for all things fitness and nutrition related.
Yay! It's us again, and we're going to be talking to you today about something that perhaps a few of you don't get a lot of.
Chocolate? Peanut butter sandwiches? Sunshine?
Yeah.
Freedom? No?
No. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of sleep.
Yes, sleep.
Have you had any sleep lately? Perhaps you feel that you and sleep have a very long distance relationship. Perhaps you feel that you actually want to hibernate for winter. I know that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, sure. I think most of us are sleep deprived. It does appear this way. Most people, certainly the first half of my life, no, correct that. From leaving home to, I guess, about 45 years of age, I was pretty sleep deprived, which is kind of this time when you're either working all the hours under the sun or you've got kids. And as soon as you've got kids, sleep goes out the window, and then that screws with your sleep patterns anyway. And then you just don't sleep so deeply as you did before.
No, but I hear that a lot.
Sleep is so important.
Yeah.
And they're discovering more and more just how important it is.
Yeah. So when we actually ask the question, why is sleep so important? I know perhaps there's some people that say, sleeping's for wimps. Well, actually, no, sleeping is for the strong.
Yeah, exactly right. If you think about a lion sleeps a lot of the time. A lion actually spends a lot of its time just lying down, digesting its food, sleeping, resting, and getting ready for action. And then the lion springs into action and does what it needs to do. It does the hunting, eats, and then sleeps again. You see, there's a direct connection between sleep and strength, and sleep and vitality.
Yeah. So, for example, if you have a really good night's sleep, do you remember those days?
Yes.
Yes, when the alarm didn't used to go off. But if you have a really good night's sleep, doesn't everything feel so much better the day after? Like, everything is logical. Everything is where it should be. You don't feel stressed. You don't feel anxious. Your mood is pretty okay. You see, that's why sleep is so important.
And that's important because sleep is so good at resetting our hormones.
Yes.
And this is something we're really only discovering recently, is that our hormones, whether you're a guy or a girl, we just have different sorts of hormones, that sleep resets those hormones and balances them. When we don't have enough sleep, that's why when the alarm wakes us up too early in the morning, we haven't slept very well, we're grouchy, we're miserable, we're a little bit, we're not firing on all 4 cylinders, or all 6 cylinders, or even all 8 cylinders, because our hormones are out of balance.
Yeah.
And if our hormones are out of balance, then we are out of balance. We are so much about our hormones.
Yeah. But did you also know that when you sleep, it also aids in weight loss?
Really?
Mainly because you don't eat when you sleep. Or you shouldn't be eating. Do you know, I used to have a really bad habit before I actually married Tom. I used to sleep eat.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, I used to wake up with biscuit crumbs, Mars bar wrappers.
Yeah.
And I was in this semi-state of sleep, and I used to get really hungry during the night.
When we first got married, I'd wake up and in the middle of the night, I'd hear crunch, 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 crunch. I'd lean over and say, what are you doing, honey?
Yeah. And
she'd be like, I've been caught.
Yeah, but don't use that as an excuse, people. I'm sleep eating. So here's the thing, is that there are so many reasons why sleep is so good. And one of them is the biological processes that actually happen as soon as you close your eyes.
And this is part of, just coming back to where you was talking about weight loss, this is where hormones and the biological processes kind of connect up, is that when our hormones are out of whack, our body tends to cling on to fat.
Yeah,
it holds onto our fat stores. Whenever our body comes under stress or trauma, it goes into panic and it starts storing fat or holding onto the fat stores that it's got. And so the biological processes that would normally burn that fat don't operate quite so much. Your body's in panic mode.
Yeah.
And for most people, they're not getting enough sleep. And because they're not getting enough sleep, that's why they have trouble burning fat during the day. And it's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Because you think that while you're sleeping, well, of course, if I sleep a lot, then I'm going to get fat. But that's not true.
No.
Actually, without adequate sleep, fat loss becomes almost impossible.
Yeah. And I think, people ask the question, so how much is enough sleep? Well, only you know that. I know people in my life who are very happy with 6 hours, and that's enough. I know people in my life who can sleep for about 12 hours, and that still isn't enough. And here's the thing, is your body is intelligent enough to let you know how much sleep is enough.
Yeah, my grandmother was like this. She could sleep just for a few hours each night, function perfectly acceptably.
Crazy.
I can't do that. Although there's stages of life where I have functioned on a lot less sleep than I do now. And this is very important to realise that not everybody is the same. There's famously Margaret Thatcher was it 2 hours sleep a night, I think she used to have. Which
hormones must have been all over the place.
Explain a lot. But because of that, other people kind of thought, well, if I'm in business, then I need to also only sleep for 2 hours a night, because that's what successful people do. Yeah. And yet there are many successful people who would not be successful if they didn't get a lot more sleep than that. So don't look down on people who need a 9 hours sleep a night, or even 10 hours sleep a night. And don't idolise people who get bypassed on 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. They might just be grouchy.
No, that's true. But the thing is that when you do sleep, you make better decisions, especially like I say, if you've woken up, everything's rational.
Yeah.
When you have lack of sleep, you become irrational, because there are certain hormones that haven't been got rid of, and we're going to get onto that in a moment, because the body is really, really clever whilst you sleep. But when you do have that really good sleep and you've actually woken up naturally, here's the thing, is that when you wake up naturally, everything seems to fall into place. It's when that alarm, it starts to it almost scares you in the morning. It jolts you out of bed.
So imagine now we're going back thousands of years to our more natural state, when human beings would be the same as any other animal on the planet. We would wake up with sunrise. The sun would rise up, which gives us a gradual, slow awakening, and then we gradually wake up, our body starts functioning properly, we start stretching out, we come to, our brain starts functioning, and so on. That's how we're designed to operate. But if we're woken up by an alarm, as most of us are, that's the equivalent of, imagine us being asleep, and suddenly there's a threat. A lion roars, and you suddenly wake up. Now what's happened is that you wake up with a shot of adrenaline and a shot of cortisol. We were talking about hormones. Shot of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. You've woken up with stress, and you're going to spend the rest of the day fighting actually to get back to that place of peace. So if you can wake up with gently wake up, and one of the things you can do if you still have to get up early in the morning is get those lamps that come on very, very slowly. It's not the same as waking up to the sunlight and the bird song, but it helps to bring you round slowly. It's quite okay. Human beings are designed to be able to wake up suddenly, but only in a situation of danger or stress. So those lamps are used especially when you suffer from SAD, like a seasonal anxiety disorder, really. And those lamps are great just for bringing you around naturally, because that's one of the things that you really struggle with, obviously, is the dark nights. Anyway, we're digressing. What happens when I sleep? You snore. I really don't, actually. That's you. No, you do. You snuffle. Well, you snuffle a bit, yeah. Okay. Whatever. Anyway, when you go to sleep, here's going to be some interesting facts for you. Tell us. Did you know that your body gets rid of toxic waste? Really? Yes. Not the way you normally get rid of toxic waste. Okay. Tell us how it happens. I have no idea. Okay. I thought you were going to come in with a whole load of... I'm not going to tell you loads of scientific stuff. Okay. No, but it does get rid of toxic waste. Basically, it gets rid of... when I mean toxic waste, I'm talking about the hormone cortisol. Yeah. Cortisol is... it's the stress hormone, which actually is very, very good for you. It keeps you alive in some cases. but the overabundance of cortisol
Yeah.
will, if you've gone to bed at night and you're really stressed, but you actually happen to have a reasonable night's sleep, and in the morning it's like somebody's pressed the reset button.
Yeah.
That's because the cortisol levels have been dealt with while you've been asleep.
Yeah. Your brain stores new information.
Really?
Yes. Your brain will store new information.
It processes it as well.
Yeah, I just find that fascinating. So I feel like I've taken in the information at the time. Like, I don't feel that when I go to bed, I have a backlog of information to be stored.
Have you ever woken up in the morning and you've had a problem, you've been working on it all day, you haven't had a solution, but you've had a good night's sleep, and you wake up in the morning and immediately you have this genius state is there, and the answer's there, it's right there.
I remember I forgot my PIN number once, and I went to sleep and it came to me.
It was in your dream, wasn't it? You dreamt your PIN number.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So did you also know that you grow during the night? Tissue growth.
Oh, this is big. Now, we do know that a lot of people listening here are clients or part of the Tojo Fitness program, or just people who are interested in fitness, full stop. And sleep is one of the most important times that your body gets to repair tissue. So if you go to the gym and you've worked out really, really hard, when you work out hard, you tear down muscle tissue.
Yeah.
You produce lots of millions of little micro traumas in the muscle fibers. And while you're asleep at night, the body doesn't sleep. The body's at work, putting it all back together and repairing the body. It's like the body has to wait until until the tenant is absent, so it can come in and do the repairs to the building. And that's what it does at night. Now, if you're not allowing that time, then you end up in a state of sort of negative with the repairs. You never actually get the body repaired. And the place gets dilapidated.
Yeah. So there is a hormone release that actually does that. It's the growth hormone. And also, when you look at your kids, do you ever think that when I know with Josh, for example, he'd come down in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, have you grown overnight?
Yeah.
Yes, he actually has grown overnight. Because the growth hormone.
Yeah, this is one reason why teenagers need a lot of sleep. And even you can shout and scream at them.
It's not just because they're lazy.
All you want, but actually they do need more sleep. They need actually vast amounts of sleep. So if your teenager's sleeping for 10 hours a night, that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Because they need the sleep. And during the sleep, growth hormone's released. Now, growth hormone, if you're a bodybuilder, there are two things which are absolute gold dust to you, particularly if you're a bloke, and that's growth hormone and testosterone. And both of those things growth hormone is released while we sleep, but testosterone is dampened down if we don't get enough sleep. Did you know that?
No.
So if your testosterone is naturally low, guys, I'm talking to you, particularly middle-aged guys, your testosterone's starting to drop off. You're starting to feel meh, starting to get grumpy,
grouchy,
starting to get depressed and so on. That's possibly because of a drop-off in testosterone, and one of the reasons might be you just need some more sleep. And if you get more sleep, it helps keep your testosterone levels up high.
Yeah. And here's another little nugget for you as well. If you are stressed or you suffer from anxiety and you do get a really good night's sleep, that means that your nervous system, so when you say, oh my gosh, my nerves are on edge, the sympathetic nervous system, it's called, fight or flight. Same as the hormone release that we got there. The fight or flight chills out.
It does, it dampens down. It actually
chills out. And what that means is that during your sleep, you don't have any anxiety. You don't have any stress. And it gives your body a chance, like Tom said at the beginning, to actually finally reset. And that is worth its weight in gold. So don't feel ever feel guilty for going to bed early. So I sometimes go to bed at 8:30.
Yeah.
And my friends used to laugh at me. They're like, it's going to be your bedtime. And I'm like, And that's because I feel that I'm a better person and I make kind of better decisions. Life feels better when I get an earlier night.
Yeah, often when we look back, we actually realise that our problem is that we're putting too much into our day. We're trying to do too many things, which means we're cutting out our sleep time, because it's the obvious victim in this, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you need an extra hour, well, it's simple. You just take an extra hour, take an hour out of your sleep. And yet that's one of the most destructive things we can do.
Yeah.
So keeping our sleep patterns good and healthy and at the right levels will be tremendously helpful for us, not only hormonally, but also in our state of mind, in the way we feel about life and how positive we feel about life. Even when, it's very interesting, but when people are suffering from depression, they want to sleep more.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can often think that wanting to sleep more is an effect of depression. No, it's your body saying to you, actually, this is one of the remedies, is to get more sleep.
I need to reset.
Press that reset button. So here's the problem. How do we get a good night's sleep? And we're going to talk about that a little bit because for many people, that's the big problem.
Yeah, so when you look at what stops you from sleeping, so for example, probably one of the biggest things that stop us from sleeping could be just a little bit too much caffeine.
Yeah, caffeine and other stimulants, Coke,
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Pepsi is also available, and other, available brands from your local supermarket. But they all contain that little drug caffeine.
As does tea.
Yeah.
Even green tea has caffeine in, as does decaffeinated drinks. A lot of decaffeinated drinks still have caffeine in them.
Yeah.
Another stimulant which is going to keep you up at night, sugar.
That's true.
Sugar will stimulate your sympathetic nervous system, keeps you bouncy and stops you sleeping at night, which is why alcohol causes bad sleep patterns.
Yeah.
We often think that we drink a load of alcohol and it's going to knock us out for the night, but what happens is it tends to knock us out and we're awake again 20 minutes later.
I don't know, it works for me.
And the reason is because the alcohol knocks you out immediately. But alcohol is essentially sugar.
Yeah.
And once that sugar is released into your system, it then wakes you up and disturbs your sleep and you don't get a good sleep. Cheese is another thing.
Cheese dreams.
Which can create
Sweet
unsettled...
dreams made of cheese.
Unfortunately, they're not.
Who am I to disagree? There we go.
Yeah.
What I did there. Anyway, sorry, cheese.
So there are a number of things we need to avoid eating before we go to sleep. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't eat before you go to sleep. If you like dairy food, then having a glass of milk is a really good thing to drink before you go to sleep. Yeah. That's fantastic. Particularly, a bit of semi-skimmed is okay unless you're trying to lose weight. A bit of skim milk is fine. A yogurt is great. It's not only is it great because it contains lots of protein, which is going to help with that repair that's going on while you're asleep, but it also contains nutrients which actually calm the nervous system. It turns on the parasympathetic nervous system, which starts just calming you down, quietening you down before you go to sleep.
Yeah. So another element of, should we say, insomnia, is also if you are premenopausal, menopausal. So what happens is because your estrogen level and progesterone levels actually lower. So progesterone actually releases the sleep hormone. It has a sleep hormone within it. And if you're going through the menopause, obviously what that means is that you are no longer a baby making machine. So your hormones are starting to, no, I don't need to be released because we're not going to be giving birth anytime soon. And what happens is obviously you're going through the menopause, estrogen and progesterone, they start going out.
That's really interesting. And
one of the side effects of that lowering of the hormone is insomnia, is that you're not able to sleep. It's also that you're hot flashing during the night as well. And it also increases the anxiety as well. So increase of the sympathetic nervous system. So obviously if you are facing that, have a look for some herbal remedies. I'm not going to go into things now. I may do a podcast on the menopause because I'd actually been through that when I was going through treatment.
Yeah, you've sort of been there and come back.
I did. Like there and back again, a hobbit's tale. Yes, there and back again, a menopausal tale. through
treatment and then back out the other side.
That means I have to go through it a second time.
Back to normal. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm going to go through the menopause twice, people. Twice. Anyway.
So other things we can do to help us sleep at night is have you ever noticed that when it's beautiful sunshining weather and you're getting plenty of exposure of your body to the sun, that you sleep better at night? And part of the reason is because the melanin production in your body helps you to sleep. It brings about a chemical change which is connected with the melatonin. So melanin and melatonin, very strong connection there. So being able to be outside, getting the sun on your skin is very, very good for sleeping at night, which is why if you suffer from SAD syndrome, one of the problems with that is getting sleep at night.
Lack of daylight. Yeah. So another thing, obviously, that sleep prevented is medication. Depends what medication you're in.
Sure.
If you're on steroids, for example.
Yeah.
So when I went through treatment, they put me on steroids. Oh my gosh, I wanted to run around the block when I wanted to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So all these things can just stop us. So how do you set yourself up for a win with your sleep? Now, firstly, create a good sleep environment. Create a good sleep environment. We live in Margate and we live in a tower block that overlooks the sea.
Yes.
Sounds lush, doesn't it? But it's very noisy.
Yes, it is, especially in the summer when you've got the windows open and you've got the wide boys outside on the singing and all sorts of stuff kicking off, and you want to sleep. So we have discovered earplugs.
Wax earplugs.
Thank God for earplugs.
Yes, they're £2.50 for 10 pairs. And you warm them up with your hands, pop them in your ear. You don't like hear a thing. Now, if you've got kids, young kids, probably...
You definitely need them.
Yeah.
Was that what you were going to say?
No. Anyway, earplugs.
Yeah.
Create a good sleep environment. Create a sacred space where even if you are struggling to sleep, it brings you to peace.
Yeah.
So put in there like your favourite painting or your favourite candle or a nice plant. So you're actually creating this lovely environment. Another thing that I can't really go to sleep unless it's dark.
Yeah. And that's because biologically our sleep patterns should be biologically determined by the sun.
Yeah.
And so if the sun's up, we need to be up.
That's why I want to go to sleep
telling us that. This is why people who for their lifetime, over long periods of time, have worked on shifts, actually have a higher mortality rate than the non-shift workers. And part of that is because it's actually pushing against the natural biorhythms of the body.
Interesting. So when it's dark, that's why like during the winter, I feel I want to hibernate.
Yeah.
You know, at 4:30 when it's dark, I'm like, I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
And sleep.
You need more sleep in the winter.
Yeah.
We all need. Now, here's another problem, of course, is that our society is set up rigidly that we get up. Work doesn't start when the sun comes up. Work starts at 8 o'clock every morning. It doesn't change. You don't work more hours in the summer and less hours in the winter. But of course, even if you just go back to our great grandparents' time, that's how they lived.
Yeah.
You got up when the sun rose, especially if you were a farmer.
Yeah,
you couldn't get out on the fields. They weren't floodlit. You couldn't get out on the fields before the sun came up. When the sun came up, you went to work. When it went down, you went home. You might stay up for a little bit, but candles cost a lot of money to burn to keep the lights on, and so you went to bed. So you tended as well. The winter time, there's less light, the crops aren't growing, and so you got more sleep. In the winter. You literally hibernated. That feeling that you have of I want to hibernate is natural. It's normal. It's how God intended it.
Yeah,
and then during the summer, when you're harvesting, you've got a lot more stuff you need to be doing. The sun's out, you've got longer days, so you can work the long days. But because you're working in the sun, at night you'll sleep much better.
Like a baby. So here's some other things that you can do to set yourself up for a sleep win. Avoid late night stimulation by games.
Yeah.
Like avoid games at all costs. Avoid trying to recruit your brain on something. Avoid it. Screens.
Yeah.
Just avoid screens. So a good book. You know, get some paper under you.
Or use a Kindle, read on a Kindle, as opposed to a book.
Yeah.
Sorry, as opposed to an iPad or something like that.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when we go to bed, Joe will read. We both read.
Yeah.
And we'll have a mug of milk there, hot milk, because that helps with the sleep pattern.
We sound about 70 years old.
We do. And
cup of hot milk.
And Joe will normally go to sleep before me. We'll turn the light off, and I'll carry on reading on my Kindle. But the way the Kindle's lit is it stimulates you a lot less. Don't read work stuff.
No.
In bed. Don't have a TV in your bedroom.
Oh, that's a good one.
When you read at night, if you read at night, read stuff which is sort of doesn't require a lot of you.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't stimulate you that much. It's just your bedtime stories. Don't read horror before you go to bed.
Oh my gosh. And lastly, just take time to unwind. Whatever you do to unwind before you actually go to bed in the evening, if you have that time, just make sure it's a priority.
Yeah, because if you see the value of sleep, when you realise the true value of it, then you're going to not only prepare for it and secure that time as unviable. You know, you're not going to allow anything to encroach upon that time. Yeah. But your preparation for it is going to be careful as well. Imagine you were going to go and have an operation to fix a part of your body that was damaged. You'd perhaps do a bit of preparation before that, the necessary preparation to make sure that the operation was a success. You're going for an operation. Your body's going to repair itself. And it's going to repair itself much better if you sleep deeply, if you sleep with restful sleep. Yeah. So prepare for it. You might take a hot bath before you go to bed.
That's true. Take some time to breathe. Perhaps you haven't managed to breathe all day long.
A great time to pray or meditate.
Yeah.
It's also a really good time to stretch out. The body responds really well at night to gentle stretching, 10-15 minutes of gentle stretching before you go to bed. No aerobics.
You should say that. I'm sure we've got one of those on our YouTube channel.
We do. A good stretch out will help you sleep when you go to bed.
Yeah. So this has just kind of been a little bit of a discussion just about the importance of sleep, really. We hope that tonight you have the best night's sleep that you've had in a long time.
I'm looking forward to my sleep tonight.
I want to go to bed now.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go get a hot milk.
Let's go to bed. This is Tojo Fitness saying good night to you all. We're going to bed.